Hello, friends, history lovers, and people abroad. I'm self-titled Professor Rum, here to give you a brief history on Julius Caesar up to the Battle of Lycia. I'd like to give a big shout out to the guys from Rise Kingdom in the Wolf Alliance who kept me going through difficult times and inspired me to try this. Julius Caesar, believed to be born either 12th or 13th July 100 BCE, later was assassinated on March 15th, 44 BCE, due to assassination by the Senate, fearing that he would become the emperor. Although he was not an emperor, he did hold the title of Dictator of Rome, which allowed him to raise armies due to any threat impending Rome, which he considered the Gallic army to be a threat. Although he was not the first emperor, his nephew and successor, Augustus, also known as Octavian Caesar, was. Caesar was always a bit of a political dark horse, with his first act being to marry his marriage to his wife, Lucius Cornelius Cinna, who was an associate to Mary's Revolution 84 BCE. This led to a rival, Sulla, who ordered him to divorce his wife, which he didn't, and said that he would have him assassinated and his body thrown into the Tiber. A lot of assassinations happened during this time, and a lot of people ended up in the Tiber River. This caused Caesar to flee to Central Asia, where he started his military career until 78 BCE, when Sulla died. Caesar returned and was started to get rid of any rivals who supported Sulla. The first friend he had was with Pompey, who he ended up marrying a decent relative of Pompey, because they was both trying to work on a bill to give veterans land in Rome, which the Senate vetoed because they didn't want people who were good in armed forces to be in Rome, because they could end up causing rebellions, or taking stuff and going, "That's mine, you try and stop me, because I've got a sword." However, later on, he came to the rescue of Crassus, who was alleged to be conspiring against the Senate, which he wasn't, because there was no money involved with it. And he tried to make the punishment lesser. Although Caesar lost the appeal, he had an ally in Crassus who actually bailed him out when debt collectors came for him to stop him leaving to go to Spain. While in Spain, he had a successful campaign against Spanish and conquered most of it, which allowed him to have riches for himself, riches for his army, and also sent enough to the treasury to be allowed to apply for consulship. Consulship was where you could help to benefit the Romans in the area which was governed by the Romans, and also to be able to expand the borders from that and to raise up armies. He was given the consulship of Gaul, much to the Senate's displeasure, with the help of Crassus and Pompey, which allowed him to have this so that he could later on would give rise to the Bill of Pompey. Although Gaul was not fully conquered yet, Caesar managed to do very successful campaigns and pacify the areas that he conquered. However, he would start to get a bit of trouble in his Gallic War when the Germanic tribes tried to invade from the Rhine, which was successfully repelled. Then another delay happened due to the Gauls naming a national leader in Arvanian Vercingetorix. Vercingetorix's plan was to not allow pitched battles and to separate Caesar's armies from him when entering in the Alps, while attempting to also invade western province of Gallia Transalpina. Vercingetorix wanted to avoid being sieged, fighting pitched battles, which were chosen by the Romans, and to try and starve the Romans by killing the supply troops with cavalry and also applying the scorched earth technique. This was not very popular, since scorched earth meant every food was burnt and the land was salted so that nothing could grow. Obviously, if you're trying to live, you want to try and keep as much food as possible, even if it's likely to be nicked by the Romans. The Vercingetorix also had another problem with the plan, when the tribe known as the Beatrix insisted on standing in their city of Avricum and was defeated within a month before the Vercingetorix could relieve him. However, from this defeat, Vercingetorix actually gained a win against Caesar and his first defeat in the Gallic War, when the Romans attempted to storm Jezebel, causing massive Roman losses. This, however, was not the lasting victory Vercingetorix needed. When he tried to ambush Caesar's armies, and it failed, leading on to the siege of Alesia. Due to the loss at Julius, Caesar was not going to rush into storming the place and taking out the Gauls within seconds, so he started building a wall around the city. Although Vercingetorix tried to delay building of the wall, the Romans actually managed to build one wall around Alesia, and then from deserters from Alesia, he found out that another army was coming to relieve Vercingetorix. So to stop the pincer attack from coming forth, he built a second wall. So by the time that the relieving army arrived, there was two walls to stop them, and when the armies of Alesia went out to assail the Romans, they was caught in traps which they was not prepared for. So they had to fill in the trenches with spikes, or fill in trenches which were covered in spikes with earth, which slowed them down to slow the armies from actually having a coordinated attack. Marcus Antony, hearing of Caesar's plight, managed to rally his troops and start moving towards Alesia. This caused the relieving forces of the Gauls to retreat due to the fear of being encircled by the Romans. Although Vercingetorix did try to continue to break out of this siege, every attempt that he made was subsequently undone by the Roman siege. So this caused him to cause a meeting between him and the tribal chiefs, whether to kill themselves or to surrender to Rome and surrender to Caesar. Although Caesar had the victory, he complained that if his troops hadn't been so tired from building the wall, that they would have got a complete victory within seconds. Vercingetorix, upon deciding to surrender to Caesar, laid his weapons in front of Caesar's feet. This ended the organised resistance of Gaul. The rest of any rebellions was mopped up during the time of Caesar. This was one of the crowning glories of Caesar. However, due to the civil war between him and Pompey, Vercingetorix was allowed 5 more years of life imprisoned, till Caesar had his parade, where he paraded Vercingetorix as the evil enemy of Rome who was defeated by the mighty Roman army, and it ended up being executed by being strangled. Although Gaul was mainly subjugated, it wasn't fully subjugated until the reign of Augustus in 27 BCE. However, there were still rebellions going ahead till 70 AD. The reason why I'm talking about Caesar's siege of Alesia, because this was the start of the domino effect of him rebelling against the Senate and fighting his ally and close friend Pompey. During this time, Crassus, who went in and invaded Parthia, was embarrassingly defeated and ended up being executed. Although there's two theories on what happened to Crassus' head. One that was melted or put into gold, and the other one is that it was used as a head in the play. Whichever one, it was not a very delightful ending. Caesar is one of the most important Roman commanders that people still remember to this day. That's because of his tenacity to think outside the box and to not give in even when he was outnumbered. If he hadn't been assassinated, many theorised that he could have ended up conquering the world. I'm not 100% sure on that myself, but I would reckon he'd do a very good job if he kept the Crassus and Pompey together, and they could have led to a much subjugation of the known world.